Okay guys, so today I'm going to show you safety bar good mornings. And this is a movement you can do even if you don't have a safety bar. Just use your standard barbell, but this is a movement I like a lot. I'm currently dealing with a bulging disc in my lower back. So due to the flexion that this movement causes on my back, it actually opens up my discs and makes my back feel better. So I'm using this as a rehab movement, but it's also getting my back stronger because at the moment I can't squat. So I prefer the safety bar. It's a bar just like this. Some of them have a little longer handles, which you can hold on to. It puts a lot more pressure on the upper back, really strengthens your upper back. A lot tougher than a standard bar. Just one of those bars that you should have, your gym should have. If you don't, look into it. You can use it for squats, all sorts of different movements. But what I'm gonna do here, I'm just gonna get under the bar, just like I would a squat, except obviously I'm gonna be holding onto these handles. So already you can feel there's a lot more weight on the neck, a lot more weight on the upper back. Just makes it a little tougher for you. Just gonna walk out here, and I squat with a really wide stance. So I'm gonna set up with a wider stance here, but I would say just take your squat stance. So for me, it's really wide, obviously. I like to have my hips pretty opened up. And typically, I would do this off of pins. Like we would have pins here and I would go down to a little above parallel, but I don't have pins with me right now, so I'm just gonna demonstrate the movement as just a free movement. So my feet are pointed out a little, just my squat stance. And I'm gonna take a big breath. Just hold that breath on the way down, and then bend at the knees a little bit. Make sure you're getting close to parallel and then explode up. So I'll do that again for you. And I just fire the hips through at the top. Just like you would on like a deadlift. Just fire your hips through hard at the top. It's gonna work your hips in that manner. Just a really good movement overall. Not too technical. Like if you don't bend your legs a ton, that's not a big deal, but just try to get some leg bend in there, some knee bend. Get close to parallel to get the full range of motion. And I think you'll see a lot of improvement to your squat and deadlift. Okay guys, so one of the things here, this is the most common mistake I see on a good morning. People treat it too much like a squat. You don't want to be squatting down, or you don't even want it to be like a half squat. You want more bend at your hips. You want your back more flat, parallel to the ground. So if your back's not parallel to the ground, you're probably not going far enough. You're probably not bending enough at the waist. So I'll demonstrate this again for you. And one other thing, when I'm extending at the top of the movement, I'm flexing my glutes to lock the weight out, just like I would on a deadlift. So I'm firing my hips through at the top, and then I'm flexing my glutes. And you want to do that aggressively. A big mistake people make on deadlift and good mornings, anything like that, they don't get that hip extension at the top. They're not aggressively firing their hips through. So pay attention to that. But this is mainly a back dominant movement. It will work your hamstrings a little, but it's primarily for the low back. And then with the safety bar, you get a little more upper back in there. So there you saw, obviously it's pretty lightweight, so the bar almost literally flew off my back. I fired my hips through so aggressively. And you kind of want to mimic that. You won't be able to do that with heavier weight, but just try to fire those through as hard as you can. So with this movement, I've got a bulging disc, L4, L5 of my low back. I'm using this because it makes me kind of round, like I'm doing it in a rounded position rather than back flat. And that's opening my discs up. It's strengthening my back at the same time. So it's a good rehab movement. It's just gonna get me stronger overall. It doesn't have the compression quite like a squat would. So I'm not able to squat due to just having a bunch of heavy weights sitting directly down on my spine and squatting down with that vertically. This kind of keeps me in a more horizontal position and just helps me hit my back without causing any more damage to the disc. So I'd say anybody can really do this movement. It might take a little while to get down, but it's pretty easy to learn, pick up on. There's not a whole lot of cues to it. You can do it rounded, you can do it with your back more flat, but main thing is just try not to turn it into a squat and you should be good. That was my Big on a Basics for the safety bar. Good morning. And if you guys haven't checked out my Big on a Basics for the deadlift, a lot of technical analysis there, just go to the link above and check that out.